Our special recycle meeting tonight and state of solid waste, but first we have our regular agenda, so I was just going to go through that, and then we'll have our speakers and Q&A. First, RS 2014-1265, Gilmore and Pridemore approves an intergovernmental license agreement by and between the state of Tennessee, Department of Transportation, and Metro through the Metro Nashville Arts Commission in relation to the Korean Veterans Boulevard roundabout. Do I have a motion? Any discussion?
Thank you. I think we have the director here. I was just going to have her to speak on it, please.
Sure. Going to make me learn the machine real quick. Hold on a second. Wait, hold on a second. Try it now.
Councilor Gilmore, were there any specific things you wanted me to speak about, or just generally?
Yes, just generally.
So most of you know the Metro Arts Commission approved the budget for this piece in 2010 and then waited for the convention center to finish the interior work before we initiated a call. The art has been awarded to an artist out of California, and we're prepared to move forward. We've been waiting for a little more than a year for a lease agreement from TDOT because the city doesn't actually own the property. This agreement that's before you is actually for a 10-year lease, which is fairly standard, to lease the land from the state for the installation of a piece of art. So the agreement is pretty standard. It's been reviewed by legal and approved by both budget and finance and the planning committee.
Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to also ask, because sometimes I know that TDOT says it's obstructions. How did you get around that?
Actually, we went before the TDOT Excess Land Committee, which is a usual step in any of these kind of requests. The Excess Land Committee asked us to do an additional parking study, which we did, and filed that with Excess Land, and it's now met all of TDOT as well as the Excess Land Committee and the Federal Highway Commission's criteria for us to install that. So it's met everything that they've required of us.
So did you have to send a separate letter or work with the federal government, or you just worked with the state and the state took care of it?
We filed those things with the TDOT Excess Land Committee, and then they moved those through their environmental review as well as the Federal Highway Commission requirements.
All right, thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will be recommended. BL 2014-910, Council Lady Allen, Evans, and others, amends the Metro Code pertaining to stormwater management regulations for infill development. Do I have a motion?
Approve.
Any discussion? Council Lady Allen?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on this. This was the result of a very collaborative process. It's taken about a year. Council members and members of the building community and neighbors and engineers from the water department were facilitated in monthly discussions led by AMEC, which is a civil engineering firm, and Hawkins Partners, which is an amazing planning firm. And the goal was to just come up with some very workable and easily implemented ways that when new construction is done, that the contractors can build their new project in a way that it doesn't have a negative impact on the surrounding properties. It was a result of a lot of good data that was developed by the folks on the stormwater department staff to come up with good mapping on where there are issues and what types of projects does this happen, so that it was all done based on what kind of problem were we trying to solve. We had several drafts that were then reviewed by the different members of the committee, great reality checks from the building community, as well as the engineers also had a lot of input just in terms of making sure that this was a very workable way to do it. So with that, I would just like to ask for approval.
And I know you had a lot of infill developers actually involved in the process with you?
Yeah, exactly. There were,
excellent.
I mean, 3 that I can name on the team. And I mean, it was a very good collaborative process in which people would say, I hear what you're saying, but here are 4 reasons why this is difficult. Maybe we can do it that way. So, you know, we all adjusted till we got to a point where everybody felt like it was workable.
I want to thank you and others. I know you all have had a lot of committee meetings over the last year or so on that, so thank you so much. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will be recommended. BL 2014-912, sponsors Baker, amends the geographic information system street and alley centerline layer for Metro by abandoning a portion of right-of-way for alley number 1517, and I do have a letter. Do I have a motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? BL 2014-913, sponsors Langster, amends the geographic information system street and alley centerline layer for Metro by abandoning a portion of right-of-way for 42nd Avenue North, and I have a letter for her as well. Do I have a motion? Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion will be recommended. BL 2014-914, Moore, Pridemore, and others, authorizes the acquisition of certain right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights by negotiation or condemnation for use in public projects of the metropolitan government, initially for the Foster Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. Do I have a motion? Discussion. Was that you? Good job. Is that hazing? Is that yeah, I was like, Councilman Pridemore popped on my cue here. Nice try. Any other discussion? All in favor? I love a good hazing. Thank you. BL 2014-915, Langster, Pridemore, and others, authorizes the acquisition of certain drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights by negotiation or condemnation for use in public projects of the Metro government, initially for the 18th Avenue North sidewalk on the east side from Kellow Street to 14th Avenue North project. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? BL 2014-916, McGuire, Pridemore, and others, authorizes the acquisition of certain drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights by negotiation or condemnation for use in public projects of the Metro government, initially for the Granny White Pike sidewalk on the west side from Granny White Court to Shackleford Road project. And we have a letter from Councilman McGuire and Pridemore. Do I have a motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's recommended. BL 2014-917, Bedney, Pridemore, and others, authorizes the acquisition of certain right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights by negotiation or condemnation for use in public projects of the Metro government, initially for the Cedarmont Bridge project. Motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Bedney. Sorry. I was already reading Pridemore. Motion carries. Any opposed? Just making sure. BL 2014-918, Holloman, Pridemore, and others, authorizes the acquisition of certain drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights by negotiation or condemnation for use in public projects of the Metro government, initially for purposes of the West Lawn Drive, Sloan Road sidewalk along Murphy Road, Sloan Road, and West Lawn Drive project. I have a letter from Pridemore. Do I have a motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is recommended. BL 2014-919, Baker, Davis, and Hunt, authorizes Metro to abandon retain easement rights in a portion of the former right-of-way of alley number 1218, closed via Council Ordinance 069-1002, for property located at 4506 Illinois Avenue. We do have a letter. Do I have a motion? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? BL 2014-920, Gilmore, Davis, and Hunt, authorizing Metro to abandon retain easement rights in a portion of alley number 407, previously retained via Council Bill number 72-368 for property located at 621 9th Avenue South. All in favor? Any opposed? And the last one on our agenda, regular agenda, is BL 2014-921, Councilman Scott Davis, A. Davis, and Hunt, authorizes Metro to negotiate and accept permanent and temporary easements for the Inga Street Stormwater Improvement Project for 16 properties located along Inga Street, Carolyn Avenue, and Cahal Avenue. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion will be recommended. Okay, now we can move into our special meeting on solid waste and recycling. We should have in the house Mr. John Sherman, who is the chair of our solid waste board, and Sharon Smith from Public Works. I believe Sharon Wallstrom is here as well. And we're just going to have folks down here. Well, they need some chairs. Can you? Looks like just one extra. This is what, clerk and an assistant? Is that what I need? Hey, buddy, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Thank you folks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate to everyone who stuck around the opportunity to talk solid waste and recycling. You know, we've been talking a lot about this subject here lately, just between the committee and those of us that are kind of active in the recycling community. And Public Works does a great job, and we wanted Sharon to kind of share with us sort of where we're at, I guess, the state of recycling, give us some data, that sort of thing, and then just knowing that the Solid Waste Regional Board also has this 10-year plan that they implement, and they had some recommendations for us. Just everybody get together and see what we could come up with, share knowledge and data, and let the council know sort of what we're up to in the county and what some other possibilities are. So I thought we'd maybe start with you, Sharon, and just talk about a little bit about where we are today, and then John, you can present after that on the Solid Waste Board. I think that one may be on too, if you pull that one out. Yeah, so we should have two on.
All right, thank you. Is this on?
Can you?
I want to thank all of the members of the council who are here and our chair for the opportunity to speak briefly on solid waste. Part of what I wanted to talk about is a report that we provide per Tennessee state law to the state every year. And so a lot of data is collected for that report every year, as you can imagine. And it is called by the state our annual progress report. One of the things that each county is required to do is to put together, which John will probably mention this later, a 10-year plan to reduce waste, and then to update that plan annually. And so for calendar year 2013, we put together the required data, and the numbers that I'll be talking about today came from that report, and that report, once again, is updated annually. To start out with, I do want to say that Public Works has engaged in several efforts with the assistance of council to reduce waste. You all may remember some changes to the solid waste code which were passed in 2010, where we banned yard waste from landfills, and we collect yard waste on the regular brush route, so people don't have to put that or shouldn't put that in their trash containers. Then in July of 2013, there was a requirement that all private haulers start offering or have a recycling option for their customers. So basically what that means is that in the USD, the single-family residents have curbside recycling through Public Works. And in the GSD, most people didn't have anything. And so that piece of legislation required all of the haulers to have some recycling program and to provide a more equally accessible system across the county. So if you want to go to a recycling drop-off, you can, or if you want to pay for your hauler to offer curbside recycling to you, you can. At that time, we also started charging for people who had more than 2 carts, and we instituted a ban on cardboard. And these are some of the recommendations that actually came from the Solid Waste Board that were implemented by Council in 2010 to help reduce the waste. And basically the state of our waste is this. there's about 650,000 tons of trash that go into landfills, Class 1 landfills, which are where your household garbage goes every year. That's kind of an average number, 650,000 tons. Of that 650,000 tons, about 150,000 tons annually is what Public Works and our contractors pick up. So you can see already that that is just one little slice of the overall pie. About 19% of our waste goes to construction and demolition landfills, which there are 2 of those in our county. 40% of our waste is garbage that's picked up by private haulers, businesses, industry, residents in the general service district, apartments, etc. And about 21% of our waste is recycling in the private sector. The remaining 20%, which is 12% trash and 8% recycling, is the amount that Public Works puts their arm around. 150,000 tons of trash and right about 50-some thousand tons of recyclables. We also, separate from what Public Works picks up, get some data from the satellite cities, because they are also required to divert waste. And the satellite cities, pretty much all of them give us some data, and that their data is also rolled into that number. What that actually means for the county is this, and we'll hand this, I've got a little handout here that you all can see later. What that basically means, though, is that you've got a lot of waste that's going into landfills, about 650,000 tons. That number has been slowly decreasing over time, very slowly. And thank you, Sharon. This chart is going to show a trend line on municipal solid waste, basically going up and down, but trending down. On construction and demolition waste, you'll also see a similar trend line. The top line, the green line, is total landfill, which is construction, demolition waste, and regular household garbage. The orange line, which is very important, is our population, slowly trending up. And the lines at the bottom are recycling. And I do want to say, just as a footnote, the private recycling numbers are somewhat difficult to get and therefore not always reliable. Private industry doesn't necessarily report their data to us, so from year to year we may or may not get all of the information that we need. But the situation is that our recycling numbers also have remained quite static over time and aren't necessarily increasing. And that is part of the reason I believe that John Sherman, the chair of the Solid Waste Board, wanted to speak with you all today and talk specifically about our recycling.
Might be able to use it, yeah. Thanks, John. Yeah, you can go use
Wonderful.
that mic.
Yeah, I believe this is on, yeah? You can hear me? So first of all, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Chairman Davis. And thank you, Councilwoman Berkeley, for helping us get this started. And of course, I want to thank all of you, but thank the volunteers on the Solid Waste Region Board that show up and do this work just voluntarily, good folks, and there's also a lot of good folks who are advocates out there that also show up. Some of them are here tonight, and I appreciate them showing up as well. What I want to do really quickly is, for those of you who don't really know who the board, what we do, Sharon touched on it a bit. You should have received 2 handouts from us. One of them is kind of reviewing, it's a 3-page document reviewing why the board got started, why we're here, and what our responsibilities are. I think a couple things that are really important to recognize. That perhaps the most important thing is that our charge is basically to develop a 10-year plan, a rolling 10-year plan, as Sharon had mentioned, and that we are only kind of a legal duty that we can look at is when a proposal comes before us around having to do with a landfill, whether it's a Class 1 landfill, which of course, as you probably know, we do not have any in this county, or a construction and demolition landfill. We have 2 of those, as Sharon mentioned. we've had, and that's really the only thing that we get to do. We can decide up or down, and does it comport with the plan? We've had 3 or 4 different C&D landfills come before us, and for a variety of reasons, sometimes we thought they were a good idea, sometimes we didn't, but right now we have 2. One is almost expired, and the other one, the big one, probably has, what, 15 years?
15 to 17
Yeah,
years.
15. That's the Southern Services landfill out on, the corner of Briley Parkway and Ashland City Highway.
Yeah.
So while we would like to do lots of things and have some authority, we don't. So what we often do is, through the 10-year plan, we'll bring recommendations to the department. Sometimes the department brings them to you, and tonight we're actually bringing you some specific ones that came out of our recent discussions. An important part of the 10-year plan, I think, is really important too, just to understand, is that when we passed this, the most recent plan, and looked at it, we said we want this plan to represent and to aggressively push for a 60% reduction in the amount of waste going to landfills. Now, that is how the law is written. It's not about 60% recycling, it's about 60% reduction from diverting that from a landfill. The way the state organizes it, that landfill can be a C, and that we can count waste going to a C&D landfill as diversion. We said, no, that doesn't count. C&D waste needs to be recycled just like any other waste. It needs to be reduced at the source as much as possible. So that's one big distinction, that we got more aggressive. And so when you hear the numbers that Sharon talks about or that we talk about, remember that in other parts of the state, they can count that C&D waste, and of course it can look good, but it really doesn't help solve the problem of diverting waste from any landfill. Secondly, as many of you know, there is a history of incineration in this county, and from the very beginning of this board, in its initial inception, there was basically we don't count incineration of waste as a way to divert it. So any numbers that you see in recycling don't count either of those. Clearly, we don't have an incinerator now. You may or may not consider one in the future, but as far as our plan is concerned, there isn't one. Some really important points, and there's several other in here that I'd like to touch on, but I will leave that for your conversation and questions if you may have them. Let me turn to the resolutions, which is a second document you have in front of you. And as Sharon mentioned, one of the reasons why this came up was a year ago, a year and a half ago, when Sharon brought these data to us that she passed out. The data point that struck us, perhaps got our attention the most, because we're looking at trends, right, over time, and the fact that actually the recycling that we control, meaning Sharon's office controls, has been slowly declining. It's not increasing, it's declining. Not a lot, but some. And even though, yes, the overall amount of garbage is declining a little bit, population is increasing, so you'd think that you would at least see an increase in the amount of recycling, and we're not seeing it. So last summer, we had 2 different public meetings bringing in experts from around the country to talk to us about, so what are you doing in your parts of the country to improve recycling rates? And, we heard from very, very progressive communities like San Francisco that, they basically ban everything, plastic bags, and they have an incredibly high recycling rate. And so there's that example. And then we talk to folks that probably are more like Nashville in terms of what they're doing. And the representative from the Solid Waste Recycling Association here in the South talked about the different experiences that he has observed about how do you actually improve recycling rates. And the resolutions, some of the resolutions came out of those conversations, but they also came out of conversations with the board and with some of the advocates who diligently show up and help us out, including John Vanderhorst, who is here. One moment, I would like to also make sure we have one of our other board members here, there in the back, Robert Deal. Robert, thank you for coming. So you can thank him as well on your way out the door. the resolutions, and this first one that you can see, I won't read through all the whereases, but the most important part of this is that in order to improve the recycling rate for the urban district, we're not talking about the GSD, we're talking about the urban district, is that we need to have more frequent pickup of our curbside recycling. That, without basically, as we've heard it described, we've basically had this kind of big pilot program for once a month pickup for several years. Once a month, as every expert has told us, this doesn't work. You're not going to improve the recycling rates by having it that infrequent. Combined with that, which we urged to do, or asked you to do a couple of years ago, which you did, was actually have a pay-as-you-throw. Those two together can really help improve recycling rates. You have to have a pay-as-you-throw program that's aggressive. 2 cans is not very aggressive. So you need to have one that's actually going to change people's behavior. At the same time, you need to offer them something else. And that something else is, here's a recycling program that you can participate in. Once a month recycling, again, by pretty much everybody we've talked to and who informed us, is insufficient. So the most important thing that you could do is to take a look at how frequently that we have curbside right now. And if you want numbers, we have folks here who can talk about the numbers. Sharon's good at that. The second really important one that we wanted to get at and is this commercial piece, which again, you heard Sharon talk about that a bit, that really Sharon's shop doesn't have any control over that. What you did last year was to ban cardboard from basically asking, commercial businesses to recycle cardboard and not toss it out. We want that expanded to include several other items. We're not, we know that there's no way that anybody will have the police force to go and enforce and make sure they're doing this. So we're not asking for for you to do that, but we're asking that just like cardboard, that you ask the commercial side to also recycle more than cardboard. Their aluminum cans, their paper, their glass. And of course, something that we want to see in all metro buildings, so bringing in from the public to basically behavior within the metro government, is all metro government buildings need to be recycling. They have to have recycling, you have them here, I like seeing that, but every place, including at any public venue that the city owns, whether it's the Predators, the Titans, the new baseball stadium, wherever it may be, that the citizens of Davidson County see that our metro government is actually doing what they're asking others to do. Very important. And the final thing, which is obviously will take some more work, is we know another way to change behavior is through fees. And we had a long conversation about how do we do that and what's the right fee structure if you actually start charging different prices and different fees for generators. And we don't know what that is. And we don't even know what the boundaries of the legal boundaries of that are. But we think that we want the council to allocate some funds and ask their legal folks to actually look at that and see what else can we do to get at the financial issue. As some of you may know who have no doubt been educated by John Vanderhars, this is something that's really passionate to him. We know that there's something there. We don't know what it is, but we think that it's important for you to have a look at it and actually have the right kind of study to look at it. So we do the right thing and do it as effectively and efficiently as possible. So those are what we wanted to bring before you. These are resolutions and points that our board passed last spring. They asked me to make sure that I bring them to you. I'm doing that tonight, and I'm happy, as are the two Sharons, to answer any questions you may have about what we do or what Public Works is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Want to definitely open up to members and ask questions. I think we can get some more dialogue and discussion going out of just letting our members do Q&A. I know people are going to ask it, so I was first going to kick it off with the residential recycling. between the council and the mayor's office, I know we wanted at least to do a second pickup last year. It just didn't happen. It cost money. Anything we're talking about costs money. It's not like Public Works doesn't want to increase recycle programs, but so I thought I'd throw out there and this would probably be you, Sharon, question, speak to what it would take to do even just a second pickup. I know the board's recommendation here is getting to weekly one day. We were just trying to maybe go to a second pickup. We kind of planted the seed last year of that in the USD. I know it would take capital money and operating money. If you want to talk with what that would take, just so members kind of get an idea.
We took a look at this, and it would take 11 personnel. Most of those would be equipment operators that would be driving the trucks. It would take, and that total is about $566,000, and that's salaries and fringes for the year. And then the things that they wear, the uniforms, the radios, the safety shoes, and then the fleet charges, which is the maintenance and the fuel for the trucks. And that runs about $272,000 a year. And then we would have to purchase 9 trucks, 5 sidearm trucks and 4 rear loader trucks, and that is approximately $1.8 million. So the annual operating cost every year would be about $838,000. But the total cost, whenever you include the capital, is going to run you about $2.6 million.
So there would be a one-time capital charge, and then we'd have it, this would be to permanently do twice a month recycling,
Right.
basically. Got some members in the queue. I'll take questions. Council Lady Bennett was first.
No, thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. Thank you all for coming tonight. Earlier, Sharon, when you were talking, you mentioned the vegetation and those pickups, and I know that's not really what we're talking about tonight, but it is an issue that I hear quite often in our districts about we put the vegetation out and then it blocks stormwater. So I realize that's not really your baby, but I think that's a big issue we need to face as a city, and in a roundabout way, it does affect you. I think people pick their trash cans as an easy way to throw vegetation because they don't want to fill their ditches up and then flood. So just wanted to make that point. The second thing, we talk about getting people proactive and getting them involved. And quite often, a non-recycling person, when we're talking about the issue, they'll go, well, I just don't know what goes in. I just get confused by that. And Coca-Cola did the fundraising thing with the stickers. Could we do some stickers that says 1 through 7 and no glass, and can we break it down and make it easier for them?
Yeah, I actually completely agree. I'm working on a sticker now that will be hopefully in English and Spanish and have the pictures and text that we can hand out at events or that we can make available to people when they call in. The Coca-Cola contest provided a really fantastic opportunity because one of those was mailed to every single family home, but people don't always, see it in their mail or may not have realized the importance of it.
Well, you never picked my house, so,
It wasn't me. It was Sharon.
Oh,
No. But I think that's actually a very valuable tool to make it easy for people to understand. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think it was 2 weeks ago we started working on a decal that we can actually print, take to events, take to community meetings. When we talk to people about recycling, we can give it to them, say, put it on the bottom of your lid. It's going to have a little place where people can write their day. And I think it's a great idea.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for doing that. If you can use a different adhesive than the Coke ones, they didn't stay on very well. So something that sticks a little better would be great. Thank you for your time.
And before I forget, one of the Solid Waste Board's points was to encourage council members to promote recycling in their district. And through this sticker program, that might be a good launching pad for us. If we got this going, I'd love to get our 40 members out there and just, we could make a dent. So, Council Member Westerholm.
Thank you all for being here. Appreciate the presentation and look forward to the conversation. A couple of questions. As far as the second pickup, I understand the cost and I appreciate the reminder of those costs. Could you put that in context of where we are as a city versus, I know we're always, and I hate to always to do this, but as far as peer cities and what is the norm? Because I feel like from a national perspective, recycling. Are cities doing more of this? Is this something that all of our peer cities are doing more of? And did they encounter any challenges as they look to increase their funding towards that end?
We're actually in the process of conducting a survey of some peer cities, some cities that are probably doing better than us. One thing that I can say, because we haven't completed that survey, is that most, if not all of those cities have some form of curbside recycling program, and that does seem to be the trend in a city of just about any size, as they have some form of program.
Okay, thank you. And I echo the sentiments of Councilor Lady Bennett. I think that more education on what is recycling would be great. And I know that the public library recently had a good video about books that was very catchy that went viral on YouTube. Would there be something that has ever been thought about in addition to stickers, other campaigns that people have used? I know there was a good video recently, or not recently, it was a couple years back, about where your recycling goes, where your trash goes, and sort of walked you through the process. Has there been any thoughts about like a YouTube video or something that we could show to kids, show to schools, show to groups?
We have a video that I think probably really could use updating, and Channel 3 has been great to work with periodically. I think it was a couple years ago they did one on cart fees and trying to just educate people. And fortunately now all of the Channel 3 videos end up on YouTube as well, which makes it a little easier. But we'll look at a way to try and update and maybe get some more current recycling video out there. And I know Channel 3 loves doing these creative projects.
Well, I think any help that the council can provide for that, we'd be happy to be a part of that. And I guess one more final question for the time. I know that I've asked this question a number of times about glass recycling, and I feel like generally like a consistent response is just that it's not cost effective at this point in time. Is that still the case for curbside?
Well, the part of the situation is that collecting glass and paper and other recyclables commingled present some challenges for the recyclers. So there are some recyclers that do accept commingled material like that include glass. At this point, our recycler doesn't. And part of that is, like you say, it's a cost situation because glass, especially when it breaks up and gets ground into the fibers, can downgrade your material, make it less valuable. So it's one of those kind of difficult questions to decide how to handle. Some cities, in fact, most cities that pick up glass at the curb do a second stream. So they have one stream of everything but glass and then a second truck with a whole second crew of people that go around and pick up the glass. Our focus for years has been trying to encourage people to use the recycling drop-off sites and to take glass there instead of approaching that additional cost of picking it up at the curb.
John, go ahead.
I don't know if either of the Sharons had mentioned this, but some of the challenges with what Public Works has is that if you look at the number of staff that have been cut from Public Works over the last decade, some of that comes out of the ability to go out and do the education programs and to create the materials that would help doing the kind of education that we all know is really important. So I don't know what the FTEs are just for that program, but again, it's just like we want more frequent recycling. Well, we want more education. It's going to cost somewhere. So just be aware that they're out there doing as best they can with a lot fewer staff, and we want more from them. So,
Councilmember Domini.
Thank you, Chairman. I had a couple of comments. One, I fully agree that once a month is not adequate. As I have 3 recycling bins sitting in my house right now, they're full. They won't be picked up till the first week of November. So I get to do the Tennessee 2-stomp on a regular basis. But and it's kind of interesting. I can do that. My kids have a lot of fun doing it because they have to climb in with some help. That's just a little fun side note. The one thing I do want to point out, I do think it's a matter of education. I know the sticker that was mentioned would be a good idea. We might also look into, as far as updating videos, every Metro senior is required to do a capstone project starting this year. It's something that's been done at Nashville Big Picture High School for a number of years. It's being done across the city now, and it might be something that some of our high school students could do as part of their capstone project to create such an awareness program. And what better way to change a culture than to change the children and those that are becoming young adults. So it might be a good way to do that, and it's something that I think would be a good partnership with the Metro schools as well as the Public Works Department of the city as a whole. So we're actually benefiting. I know that Cane Ridge High School has a video production arrangement out there. Some of the other school systems now, even Apollo Middle School has a small video set up with a green screen. Might be something the middle school could even do. So just a few suggestions.
Thank you. Councilmember Bedney.
I'd just like to say that I love that idea. Thank you.
That sounded good, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, can I get a little bit off subject and ask about having a recycling place in the southeast?
Thank you.
Sure. We used to have one at the Kroger on close to Thompson Lane and Lawrenceville, which is being replaced by a great project now, but we are lacking a good recycling place where people can go 24/7 to take the recycling. And I understand that we are in the general services area and we don't qualify for trash pickup or recycling, but people are very conscientious in the southeast, as my peers can tell you, and they want to have a place close by where they can take their recycling. So I already kind of informally talked to many before, but is there like a recycling czar that will take the leadership on finding places to have these recycling centers in the city? That way, I can just talk to one guy and they can take, because I know there are many moving parts. Sorry. So I guess that's what I would like to know is if I can just put it on you to help us find a site on the southeast to take the recycling 24/7, because we have, Granbury does a great job, but it's limited to the weekends, for example, and there are other places like that, but it would be great to a place where people can go and do that. Thank you.
When the Elysian Fields site closed, and the reason it closed is that the property owner decided they didn't want to have a recycling drop-off site. One thing that we were in the process of doing is moving as many of our recycling drop-off sites as possible to Metro property, because it eliminates the problem of being evicted. I know out West Nashville, just since I've worked for Metro, we've had 4 different sites, and now we actually don't have one at all, just because of private property. But when that site closed, I looked at a map, and there was a huge void down in the south, and it seemed like a good idea to look through some of the high schools down in that area, and Cane Ridge High School was willing to host a recycling drop-off site. And the reason that we did that is that 3 miles from the Elysian Fields site will be the new Ezel Pike Convenience Center, which will have not just recycling, but the option to take bulky items, household hazardous waste, electronics. Right. So instead of having a convenience center and a drop-off literally 3 miles apart, we tried to focus one further down, which is down at Cane Ridge High School, and the convenience center, which will be over not terribly far from Elysian Fields. But to answer the last part of your question, even the recycling drop-off site requires equipment, resources, and staffing. So the more sites that we add, right now we're at capacity. If we add more, then we'll need to have more of the recycling roll-off containers. We'll need to have more trucks to transport those containers, and we'll need to have more personnel.
So, Chair, I would like to have that information so we can put it on the budget next year and we can work on getting that service that the Southeast is clamoring to have.
Absolutely. I think it's a great question, Councilman. And yeah, so Ezel Pike Convenience Center is coming online. We do have a drop-off at Cane Ridge. Is that what I'm hearing, Sharon? Yeah. And I think maybe we just look strategically at any others we want to add and what equipment is needed and that sort of thing. Anything we can do to continue to increase, and at least look at the numbers, and then it would be up to the budget process. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to encourage the recycling department of Public Works and the rest of the departments, keep up the good work, because we know you're doing a great job with limited resources, and we all appreciate the work you do. Also, if we can, I'm not trying to put more of a burden on you, but I've seen people doing a lot of interesting things lately with old tires and mattresses, a lot of school projects, and I've been hearing that, I've seen that old tires are used for not rubber, but for paving. And hopefully, maybe there's a way that we can benefit from picking up all those old tires. I know that, it's kind of sensitive to me and maybe Council Lady Bennett because of our districts being close to Dickerson Road, and just overnight Santa Claus drops a bale of tires, and which the Public Works Department goes and cleans it up. But, I do understand your budget needs and what you're doing, the miracles with the limited resources, but I've been hearing that there's several innovative things that are happening, that people are using the old mattresses and the tires, not just for paving, but for other industrial products. I don't know if we can sell them or give them to somebody or something. Also, and I don't have the perfect answer to this, but is there a way, and you don't have to answer this if you don't know the answer, or maybe you can research it later, but is there a way that, because it's very expensive to add some more personnel and trucks to get a second pickup, but maybe doing a pilot project, maybe there's we can subcontract to a company that, because I've been hearing a lot of companies that you can sell some of these recyclables. That's what I'm hearing. And I didn't know, because I don't want to have any competition for Gunner, but the glass, but, I heard that people collect glass and take it out of state and sell it. So I don't know if we had a private contractor that could do this with other materials too, that maybe, it could just ease some of the burden on us. And thank you just for all your hard work in your department.
Well, I can speak very briefly to the tires, and Sharon Wallstrom also can speak to the tires, as she's probably more knowledgeable than I am. But all of the tires that are collected, and it's the tire program, I remember 20 years ago when I first got involved in solid waste, all you had to do was go into a room of solid waste directors and say, the waste tire program, and everybody would groan. And the waste tire program is one of those things that probably a good program that it's sometimes hard for counties, especially smaller counties, to jump through all the hoops. But all of the tires that are collected in Davidson County actually go through our contractor, and they're all recycled. And that's kind of the good news. And state law requires that tires be recycled. And whole tires are actually banned from landfills. Not to say that some of them don't end up there, but they're not supposed to. And Sharon, you know a lot more about the tire program.
Recently, they changed the funding, so it's no longer applying for a grant and receiving the money that way. Now we get $1 for every new tire that's sold at a tire dealership. The fees that you pay, every new tire that's sold in Davidson County, we get $1 of that fee to Public Works, which means that if we don't have to pay all of that money to our contractor for the recycling, it gives us more available money for the cleanups and the kinds of things that you're talking about.
So we all need to buy new tires.
That just started. And so we don't even know, we have not gotten our first quarter's revenue payment. So we're not even sure how much money is going to come in or what that's going to look like, because it's brand new and we're still in the administrative phases. But hopefully it'll give us some more money to do cleanups.
Go ahead.
Is there any way we can apply that to people that buy used tires?
The state collects the revenue, and right now it's by state law, and so that has not been something that they've been willing to implement.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allen, did you? Sorry.
I've got a community meeting, so I'm going to have to scoot out shortly. But I just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming. As you know, this is something that I care deeply about and would love to see Nashville move forward, even to the point of having 4 bins like San Francisco does, including composting and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll continue to march slowly in that direction. And, I mean, I guess as you give us financial information, if you also include avoided cost that we can take credit for as we, make it so that, I mean, the truck still has to go on every street, but it doesn't have to go to the landfill as often, and it's a long drive to that landfill. So if we can get information to us, in addition to here's what it would cost to add this recycling, here's what we might save on the trash pickup end by not having to make so many trips to the landfill, that would be useful to have, I think.
I'll thank my vice chair, Council Lady Allen, while she's still here. I did want to touch on commercial recycling a little bit. That was your second resolution, John. How is that, I know we've banned cardboard. How is that currently enforced? And if we added, you've recommended to add paper, plastic, and aluminum, not necessarily glass yet, but paper, plastic, and aluminum to commercial recycling being disallowed. How would that work? And do you think it would work, I guess, to add these requirements to commercial businesses? Oh, you're on, right? Yeah.
That's a great question, and I'm not sure if I like it, but I'll keep on talking.
Sorry.
For the most part, there is no police force out there to enforce this, meaning that so it's mostly, hey, this is a good idea. It is illegal to do it, but I think as Sharon was sharing some of her stories with us about the cardboard, there aren't, unless you want to really beef up Public Works to have them go out and start peeking into commercial recycling bins. It's mostly a persuasive, this is a good idea, it's illegal, everybody knows that there isn't anybody out to enforce it.
Would it be Metro Codes then, or would you guys actually you wouldn't be the ones to enforce it anyway, would you? Would it be Metro Code? Just curious.
But there is language in the solid waste code that allows for enforcement officers.
Okay.
So I would imagine theoretically it could be either.
I'll just tell you what they do in San Francisco, because they do actually there, when the recycling Czarina was here to talk to us, they actually employ underemployed youth from the neighborhoods working through local workforce development agencies to go out and actually look into people's garbage cans to see if they're recycling or not. And they just put a nice little tab on the door. It's somebody from the neighborhood, so it doesn't look too threatening, and just suggesting they do something different. So I don't even think I don't know how much they actually take anybody to court. But the fact is, there are ways to do that. But we recognize that this is mostly another way to urge commercial businesses to recycle. And given that they have reasons to recycle if they can avoid costs. So we know that they're probably doing more than we think they're doing, because they don't have to report it, but it's just another reminder to them. So.
And maybe it's just one of those things, that even if you're not strictly enforcing it, I mean, when we did the ban yard waste in the bin thing, just kind of, I'm thinking, there could be someone watching me if I'm putting yard waste in the wrong spot. So, just something that if we feel like it's a good thing, even though we're not going to have codes enforcers out there doing it, it's just a suggestion. Yeah, did you have a comment?
I can speak to that a little bit if you want.
Sure. Are you on? I think you might
I don't
be.
know. Yes, that sounds like I'm on. Any Metro Code violation is enforceable by filing a warrant for a violation and pursuing it in environmental court as well.
Sure. And I think the greater point is, the resources aren't necessarily there, but is it a good idea to put that out there? Your recommendation is that we do that. Obviously, that would be to the will of the council and the people.
Correct.
Seeing no one else in my queue, did you guys have anything else? Seeing nobody, well, we really appreciate y'all's time. I'm sorry? Oh, Peter, I'm sorry. One more comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Question. I appreciate all the time you're spending. Has there ever been any looking at in the context of the construction and demolition going to landfill, any sort of ordinance or thoughts of ordinance or policies directed towards deconstruction rather than demolition?
Well, I'll just say that we've talked a lot about that in the 10-year plan, and that asking actually the city, what we wanted is that when, and Sharon can speak to all the specifics, is anytime a contractor over a certain size comes and asks for the appropriate permits, if it's over a certain size building structure, then they have to have a recycling plan. So there should be a waste reduction plan there. And secondly, what we did put in the plan is that any new C&D landfill or a current landfill that wants an expansion, they have to come with a recycling plan for their on-site waste recycling. And just know now that the larger of the two C&D landfills I know does not have an on-site recycling at this time. So, but you could do more, but on the construction side too.
Thank you.
So with you're saying at the C&D landfill level, at the landfill itself, we could be, if we had some resources there, we could do more?
Oh, well, we have it in the plan that right now, if for example, if Southern Services, the larger one, comes to us, says we want to expand and we need approval from, does it fit with the 10-year plan? We would say only, we will not even consider it until you show us that you actually have an on-site recycling effort underway. But we want to go upstream from that, and as Councilman Westholm was asking, we want to get to the point where you actually start asking the folks who are generating the waste in the first place to have plans to reduce it before it ever gets to the C&D landfill.
Great. Well, I think we had a lot of great ideas today. Thank you to Sharon from Public Works and John from the Solid Waste Board. Thanks to the committee and those for sticking around, and this concludes our Public Works meeting.
Great.